The night sky over the Saudi desert is completely black, except for the distant grid of lights marking Prince Sultan Air Base. Then, a silent, brilliant flash. Not near the base. A direct impact. Seconds later, the concussion wave hits the camera, filming it, a low gut punch of sound. This is the footage millions dismissed as fake. The video the Pentagon doesn't want you to analyze. It captures the single most devastating attack on a US military facility since the 1983 Beirut bombing. America's multi-billion-dollar air defense, the most advanced on Earth, saw nothing. It intercepted nothing. And it forces the question, if they are covering up a total system failure, what are they hiding about the true number of American casualties? The answer to this impossible strike isn't in the wreckage. It's in the warnings the Pentagon deliberately ignored. From the one man they tried to silence. That man is former US Marine Corps intelligence officer Scott Ritter. And to understand the depth of the Pentagon's failure, you have to understand the clarity of his warning. Years before the smoke and wreckage we see today, Ritter did the math. Using his deep expertise on weapon systems and regional strategy, he publicly forecasted this exact scenario. He warned that in a conflict with Iran, America's multi-billion-dollar bases would become liabilities. He stated, with chilling precision, that Iran's missile capabilities were not propaganda. They were a new reality. A reality that would lead to the destruction of US assets and heavy American casualties. His reward for this foresight was not a commendation. It was suppression, executed with the full force of the state. It wasn't a polite disagreement in a think tank. It was the hard, physical reality of FBI agents raiding his home, operating under a search warrant for an alleged violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, a convenient tool for silencing uncomfortable foreign policy analysis. He was deplatformed, blacklisted from the very mainstream media that should have been amplifying his warning. The system didn't just disagree with him, it tried to erase him. And in the silence they created, the tragedy he predicted was allowed to unfold. His prophecies, once dismissed, are now being proven correct in real time, as old interviews of him warning about the end of US power in the Middle East go viral. The facts have vindicated him, but it's a tragic vindication, born from a disaster that was not just foreseen, it was preventable. This wasn't a failure of intelligence. It was a failure of character at the highest levels, a profound institutional arrogance. So if Ritter was right about the outcome, how did Iran actually pull it off? It wasn't just one lucky shot. This was phase one of a brilliant multi-stage attrition strategy meticulously designed to bleed America's defenses dry before the first shot was even noticed. The answer lies in a strategy of profound asymmetry. Iran's leadership understood they could not match American technology head-on. So they didn't try. Instead, their objective for phase one was to neutralize America's primary advantage by targeting its hidden disadvantage, its unsustainable defense costs. For weeks, Iran and its proxies executed this plan with cold precision. They launched waves of cheap low-tech drones and older ballistic missiles. The media reported these as failed attacks, easily intercepted. But that was the point. The goal was never to cause major damage with these initial waves. The goal was to force the US military to engage, and the math of that engagement is brutal. As reported by sources like CNN and The Atlantic, this strategy forced the United States and its allies to fire multi-million-dollar interceptors from Patriot and THAAD systems to destroy hardware that in some cases cost as little as $2,000. It's like forcing a heavyweight boxing champion to spend 12 rounds doing nothing but swatting thousands of flies. The boxer is infinitely more powerful, but he's not throwing knockout punches. He's just burning stamina, draining his energy, exhausting himself on a meaningless task before the real fight has even begun. The flies win by attrition, and the attrition was devastating. The US burned through its limited and extremely expensive interceptor stockpiles. One Gulf ally reportedly ran low on munitions just 4 days into the conflict. By the end of this phase, an estimated 25 to 30% of the US early warning system's capacity in the region was degraded, and its defense personnel were exhausted. America's shield was thinned precisely as planned, but depleting America's expensive interceptors with cheap drones. That was just the setup. The strike on Prince Sultan Air Base wasn't the peak of the conflict. The math says that was Iran changing gears, signaling the end of Phase 1 and the beginning of the real attack. Changing gears meant the attrition game was over. The real hunt had begun. This was the moment the entire strategic landscape shifted. Iran announced the beginning of Phase 2. This was not another wave of cheap drones. This was the deployment of advanced precision-guided missiles, systems they had deliberately held in reserve, waiting for this exact moment of manufactured weakness. Their new targets weren't just the defensive perimeter anymore. They were aiming at the central nervous system of the American military machine in the Middle East. The command, the control, and the operational nodes, and the proof of this shift came almost immediately, verified not by whispers, but by satellite imagery analyzed by outlets like the New York Times. The strikes were surgically precise. They hit communication and radar infrastructure, the fragile radomes, the critical satellite dishes, at 7 different US sites across Bahrain, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. The strike on Prince Sultan Air Base wasn't the peak of this conflict. History shows it was simply Iran changing gears. And with that gear change came the truly devastating blows. A key target in this new phase was a THAAD anti-ballistic missile site. The strikes likely damaged the single most important component of that system, the $500 million ANTPY-2 radar. With that one asset damaged, a critical gap was torn open in the US defense umbrella over the Gulf. The math is unforgiving. With defenses depleted and personnel exhausted from Phase 1, the US military was now facing a more advanced and lethal threat. The bases, once symbols of power, had become liabilities. The cost to remain was for the first time becoming higher than the cost to withdraw. But if you believe this is still a regional military problem, contained over there, you haven't understood the architecture of their final move. Phase 3 does not target another American base. It targets the American homeland itself. And that brings us to Phase 3, the Homeland Gambit. The logic behind it is brutally simple. Iran's leadership understands they cannot defeat the United States military in a conventional head-to-head conflict. So, they change the battlefield. The goal of Phase 3 is to bypass the Pentagon entirely and inflict targeted, strategic pain directly on the American population to fundamentally break public support for any overseas engagement. History shows this is the correct strategic calculation. As one analyst put it with chilling precision, Iran doesn't need to sink an aircraft carrier to win this war. They need to turn the lights off in 3 American cities for 72 hours. Phase 3 is a declared war of cyber attacks against the pillars of domestic life: the power grid, the water supply, and the financial network. The term is cyber warfare. It sounds clinical, distant. The reality is not. The reality is a hospital's backup generator failing during a critical surgery. It's the ATM and point-of-sale network across an entire state going dark, instantly freezing commerce. It's the water from your tap no longer being safe to drink because a purification system was silently shut down from halfway across the world. And this is not speculation. Official joint advisories from the Department of Homeland Security and CISA, as recently as March of 2026, explicitly warn of heightened Iranian state-sponsored cyber activity. The documents note their teams are already active on US bank and airport networks. The pieces are already in place. This is the move that transforms the conflict. The threat is no longer an image on a screen or a rising price at the pump. It becomes a direct personal risk to your family's survival and financial security. Iran doesn't need to defeat America's military to win. The math says they just need to create enough chaos at home to make the foreign war politically impossible to continue. The Pentagon planned for a war of ships and planes. Iran is threatening a war of switches and code. So in this new reality, which asset is more critical to national power? A carrier strike group or a stable power grid? Let me know your strategic take in the comments. But as the threat of blackouts grips the US, America's allies in the Gulf are making their own cold calculation. They're realizing the US bases on their soil are no longer shields, or they are magnets for fire, and the decades-long alliance system is beginning to crack. The cracking of the alliance wasn't a public announcement. It was a quiet conversation happening in closed-door meetings in Riyadh and Doha. The air in those rooms has fundamentally changed. For 50 years, the central question was always, how can the Americans protect us? Now, that question is gone. It has been replaced by a colder, harder one. How do we protect ourselves from being tethered to the Americans? The math of self-preservation is brutal and simple. For decades, American bases meant American security guarantees. A shield. The equation has now inverted. Those bases have become magnets for Iranian fire. They are liabilities that attract retaliation and threaten the very energy infrastructure they were meant to defend. America's exposed vulnerability isn't just America's problem anymore. It's a direct threat to the survival of its hosts. The global markets, which trade on reality, not rhetoric, priced in this shift instantly. Brent crude surged over 9% to $93 a barrel, the highest since last year. But inside the energy ministries and on the encrypted calls between analysts, the number being discussed isn't 93. It's 150. A catastrophic scenario that is now openly on the table. This is far more than an oil shock. This is a credibility collapse. The Financial Times confirms that Gulf states are now weighing the withdrawal of over $2 trillion in US investments. Make no mistake, that is not a budget consideration. It's a financial weapon being quietly placed on the table. As America's reputation as a protector evaporates, a power vacuum is forming. And it's a vacuum that Beijing and Moscow are not just observing, but are actively preparing to fill. But this geopolitical unraveling is just a symptom. The real war, the one this audience needs to track, isn't being fought for territory. It's an undeclared war on the foundation of American global power itself, the US dollar. This undeclared war is not a future possibility. It is a current reality, and its mechanics are critical to understand. Beyond the battlefield, Iran is executing a sophisticated monetary strategy designed to structurally erode American economic hegemony. Its primary vector is the petrodollar itself. By leveraging its deep, sanctions-proof alliance with China, Iran is systematically rerouting its energy trade outside of US dollar clearing systems. The data confirms the scale of this operation. An estimated 80 to 90% of Iran's sanctioned oil is now purchased by Beijing. These transactions are settled entirely in Chinese yuan and conducted via a shadow fleet of tankers, rendering American financial sanctions irrelevant. This is a closed loop, completely insulated from Washington's control. To grasp the strategic gravity of this, think of the petrodollar system as a global toll road that America has owned for 50 years. Every major energy transaction paid a toll to pass through, granting the US immense regulatory power and creating artificial demand for its currency. Iran is not attempting to destroy this road. Its strategy is far more elegant. It is building permanent, efficient backroads. And now, the world's largest economies, starting with China, are beginning to use them. This is not a temporary detour, it's new infrastructure. This pattern is now scaling globally. Analysis from institutions like Responsible Statecraft and the IISS shows this blueprint, mirrored by Russia, is accelerating a systemic de-dollarization trend. Even historical US allies in the Gulf are now openly exploring non-dollar alternatives. They see the new infrastructure being built, and they are making a cold calculation. Each barrel of oil sold in yuan is a small, permanent crack in the foundation of American financial power. It's a slow, quiet, and relentless erosion of the reserve currency status that underwrites America's global dominance. But Iran's strategy is designed with a second phase. It's not just about weakening the dollar from the outside. It is also designed to trigger a time bomb inside the US economy. A fiscal doomsday clock that is now ticking faster. This clock doesn't measure time. It measures the rate at which American hegemony becomes mathematically insolvent. The true cost of this war isn't found in battlefield reports. It's calculated on the US national balance sheet. Iran's strategy is engineered to trigger compounding fiscal shocks, rendering the cost of maintaining American power not just expensive, but arithmetically impossible. The mechanism is asymmetric by design. By forcing disproportionate responses without offering a conventional target, Iran creates a persistent, high-cost operational bleed. The math shows the daily cost of just equipment burn is estimated at around $59 million. Extrapolate that. The Penn-Wharton budget model estimates the direct operational costs could reach $65 billion in just 2 months. That figure isn't just an abstraction. It represents a choice. It's nearly the entire annual budget for the Department of Homeland Security, vaporized in 60 days. When you factor in the additional $115 billion in indirect economic damage from supply chain and energy volatility, you are looking at a sum that could rebuild America's crumbling infrastructure. The math is now brutally simple. You can fund a global empire, or you can fund domestic stability. You can no longer afford both. Stop. Let this sink in. Because if you still see this as foreign policy, you are missing the game entirely. This is not geopolitics. This is financial physics. The causal chain Iran initiated was never designed to just hit military bases. It was engineered to hit the US Treasury market. And the sound you are beginning to hear is the cracking of every assumption you hold about safe assets. Each escalation that disrupts the Strait of Hormuz, affecting 20 million barrels of oil per day, risks adding up to 0.4 percentage points to inflation from gasoline prices alone. This is how the conflict comes home. The foundational assumption that the United States could absorb infinite foreign commitments without fracturing its domestic fiscal base has now been proven false. This war is not the cause of the coming debt crisis. It is the accelerant. It is forcing the bill, for decades of imperial overreach to finally come due right now. The military, the alliances, the national debt. The math is no longer theoretical. The old maps are useless. This is the new reality. The question is no longer if a systemic reset is coming, but how you position for it. When the world watched the fires at Prince Sultan Air Base, they weren't just seeing burning fuel and twisted metal. They were watching the very illusion of the unipolar moment turn to ash. What Iran delivered was a masterclass in geostrategic physics. It proved, with cold arithmetic, that America's core systems, its military projection, its economic dominance, its web of alliances, are not just vulnerable. They can be systematically dismantled with intelligent asymmetric strategy. Consider the trajectory. The missiles get more precise, the swarms get denser. The multi-billion-dollar defenses prove porous. The national debt required to fund this global posture enters its terminal phase. And the allies, they are quietly hedging their bets, looking for the exit. The old maps are useless. The foundational assumption of the last 50 years that American power structures are a reliable bedrock for global security and finance is over. A new, more volatile, multipolar world is here. It demands a fundamental reassessment of risk, of strategy, and of what it truly means to be secure. Navigating this new reality requires a new kind of intelligence. If you value evidence-backed frameworks over mainstream narratives, subscribe and join a community dedicated to understanding the real risks ahead. The system is cracking. It's time to position for what comes next.